She stood by the window and watched the sun slip below the horizon. The sky turned soft orange, then deep purple, and the world seemed to slow around her. Every evening she came here, hoping to feel closer to him. But the distance between them was growing like a silent chasm, one she did not know how to cross. Her name was Mira, and her brother Raoul had moved to the orbital colony 2 months ago. He had always been the brave one, the first in their family to volunteer for the space program. When he announced he was leaving, she cheered the loudest. She believed in him more than anyone else. But now that he was gone, she missed him more than she ever thought possible. Each morning, she checked her comms console for his message. Sometimes there was a quick good morning or a photo of the colony's new hydroponic gardens. But most days, there was only silence. She tried to remind herself that signals took time to relay across space, but the excuses felt thin. Her heart ached every time she saw her console screen remain dark. At work, she found it hard to focus. She was a technician on Earth's newest communications satellite, the one that relayed messages to the colony where Raoul lived. The irony was bitter. Every day she repaired glitches and boosted signal strength, yet her own signal to her brother felt weak and broken. She fixed satellites by day and wrestled with loneliness by night. One evening she remembered something Raoul had said before he left. "No matter how far I go, I am still your brother. We will always find a way to talk." And tried to feel his voice. In her mind she heard his laugh, warm and steady, like the sun shining through her window. It gave her a small spark of hope. She decided to act. The next morning, she went to the lab with a plan. She grabbed a fresh data crystal and began to record her memories of him. She spoke into the recorder as if he stood beside her. She told him about the new coffee shop she found in the city. She told him about the old oak tree, where they used to climb and pretend to be explorers. She spoke of the dog they once rescued, how it still waited by the gate whenever they returned home. As she spoke, her voice grew stronger. She felt the courage of humanity's explorers flowing through Hertha, same courage that had carried Raoul beyond Earth's bonds. She remembered that humans never gave up when things grew hard. They invented radios, rockets, and data crystals to connect across impossible distances. She was a human, and hope was part of who she was. When she finished, she sealed the crystal and sent it to the orbital relay. She knew it would take a day to reach him, but she felt lighter already. For the first time in weeks, she believed her message would not vanish into silence. It carried her heart, and she trusted it would reach his. The next evening, Mira stood by the window again. As the sky shifted from orange to purple, her console chimed. She nearly dropped the mug in her hand. The screen lit up with a small icon, an incoming transmission. She tapped it with trembling fingers. A flicker of light showed Raul's face, framed by the pale hull of his habitat module. He looked tired but smiled. "Hey Mira," he said, his voice crackling through the speakers. "I got your crystal, saw the oak tree. I heard your stories." His eyes shone with surprise and warmth. "I missed all of that. I missed you." Tears filled Mira's eyes as she whispered, "I missed you too." The space between them felt smaller in that moment. Across miles of emptiness, two hearts found each other again. They talked for hours. He described the blue planet beneath him, the way the oceans glowed under the sun. She told him about the city at night, the lights that blinked like distant stars. They laughed over old jokes and made new plans. She learned that he had used her recording to remind himself of home when he felt alone. When the call ended, the sky outside was nearly dark. But in Mira's heart, a new dawn had broken. She realized that distance could not silence hope. She was part of a species that reached for the stars and still held tight to one another. She was human, and that meant she never gave up on the people she loved. She turned away from the window with a smile. Tomorrow, she would send another crystal. She would share new stories, new dreams. And every night, she would stand here, knowing that hope and humanity bridged the greatest distances. Mira woke before sunrise. Her room still dark, except for the soft glow of the comms console. After their long talk last night, she felt lighter. But today the silence returned. She pressed her hand to the cold metal of the console, and waited. No message came. She dressed slowly and walked to the kitchen. The coffee pot hissed as it filled. She poured a cup and stared out the window at the empty street. The world felt quiet, almost too still. She thought about Raoul, floating in his orbital home, looking at the same sunrise from above. At the satellite lab, she joined her team for the morning briefing. Engineers spoke of a network glitch that cut off the colony's data link for hours. Mira's heart dropped. They tried to fix it, but shifting solar winds and space dust caused repeated delays. Every lost hour meant more distance between her and Raoul. During lunch, she sat alone in the courtyard. She watched birds flit between trees and envied their freedom. She pulled a small data crystal from her pocket, the one she recorded last. Night, she held it tight and closed her eyes. She thought of Raul's laugh and the warmth of his smile. Back in the lab, she joined the repair effort. She and Dr. Patel examined the relay array, checking every circuit. She felt the familiar thrill of a challenge. Humans never backed down. They had built radios, rockets, and satellites to reach the stars. She looked at her own hands and remembered that she was one of them. She rerouted power through a backup amplifier and fine-tuned the signal calibrations. Her fingers moved with steady confidence. She whispered for Raoul and pressed the final switch. The console beeped and data streams began to flow again. Cheers erupted around her. Humanity had overcome another hurdle. Still, her heart pounded. The signal was weak, and she worried the transmission might not reach the colony. That night, she recorded another story on a fresh crystal. She spoke of the sunrise she saw at dawn, the new mural painted on the lab wall, and her hope for tomorrow. She sealed it and sent it into space. She paced the rooftop garden, waiting for confirmation. The stars above shone brightly. She imagined Raoul among them, gazing down at Earth. She pictured him reaching back, sending his own story. She wondered if her messages felt like home to him. She needed to know they still mattered. Her console chimed just as she began to lose hope. A brief incoming signal blinked on the screen. She hurried inside and tapped the feed. Short message arrived. "Thank you. I heard your voice." The screen went dark again, but those 6 words filled her with light. Mira smiled through her tears. She whispered into the empty room, "I'm here." She knew he was listening somewhere. She felt his presence across the void. In that moment, distance seemed smaller. Humanity's spark had bridged another gap. The next day, she taught a class of new recruits about signal encoding and human connection. She told them how stories could travel farther than any ship. She saw hope in their eyes. She realized that her own hope had grown stronger too. She was not alone in this. As the week passed, the relay held steady. Messages flowed back and forth, like a gentle stream. She learned about Raul's new friends on the colony, their shared meals and midnight walks in low gravity. He sent her photos of coral-like gardens and glimmering city domes. She read each word carefully, feeling closer with every line. One evening, her feed lit up with a surprise. A live video call from Raoul. He hovered in front of a viewport, Earth shining behind him like a blue beacon. He waved and said, "I want to show you something." He turned the camera, revealing a small model of Earth carved from glass. He held it out, and she could almost touch it through the screen. "I made this during my free time. It reminds me of home and of you." Mira pressed her hand to her heart. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "I'll treasure it." They spoke for hours, sharing laughter and dreams. He told her about his plans to study the Xerax. Peace efforts on Mars? She told him about her idea to start a community. Art project inspired by his glass Earth? They planned a joint gallery exhibit broadcast across the solar system. When the call ended, Mira felt a deep warmth in her chest. She walked into the lab and placed his glass Earth model on her desk, virtually, if not physically. She touched the crystal screen where his face had been. She realized that no matter how far humanity reached, the true voyage was always the journey between hearts. Hope, she thought, was the strongest signal of all. As long as she held that hope, she knew she could bridge any distance. Mira woke to the soft hum of the city's early traffic, but her room felt colder than usual. She reached for her comms console, hoping to see a message from Raoul. The screen glowed with routine system checks but carried no personal notes. She sighed and wrapped her arms around herself. Even after their long video call last week, the silence returned too quickly. Leaving her with that familiar ache of missing him, she dressed quietly and stepped into the corridor. As she walked to the lab, she passed the mural she had painted up. Soaring rocket carrying two figures toward distant stars. She had painted it after Raul's last message, when her hope burned brightest. The rocket's path curved around a glass earth he had made, shining against a dark sky. Mira paused to touch the mural and whispered, "Keep flying, Raul." Her smile faded as she moved on. In the satellite lab, the team faced a new problem. The relay's memory banks were filling faster than engineers expected, and old data crystals risked being erased. Without enough storage, her stories might vanish before reaching Raul. Dr. Patel gestured to a flickering console. "We need cleaner compression or more crystal slots," he said. Mira stared at the readout. She knew the value of every crystal. Message she sent it was a piece of her heart. At lunch, she sat under the oak tree they had climbed as children. She pulled out her recorder and spoke softly. "I miss you, Raul. Today I saw a pair of sparrows building a nest." She described the birds' gentle dance, how they worked together to create a new home. She imagined him watching the same sky, thinking of her too. She saved the recording, but she knew that sound files took too much space. She needed another way. Back at her workstation, Mira sketched a plan. She would cut her stories into short fragments, small, self-contained memories that could fit on tiny crystals. Each fragment would be like a star in a constellation, and Raul could piece them together on his side. She wrote down memory titles: Laughter Under the Oak, Rain. On the Roof, First Taste of Moonberry Jam. She arranged them in order, determined to keep the strongest moments alive. That evening, the lab's innovation team tested her idea. They programmed a microcrystal array to hold 8 tiny files instead of 1. Mira watched as the system loaded. Her first bundle, 3 fragments totaling half the usual data size. The console beeped in triumph. She pressed her hand against the machine. Humanity found ways to solve hard problems, she thought. And this was another chance to reach him. Later that night, Mira sat by the window again. The mural's rocket glowed in her mind. She recorded a fresh fragment, Starlight Promise. In her soft voice, she described how she would wait for him, no matter how long it took. She spoke of hope as a flame that never died, even in the coldest nights. She placed the crystal bundle into the transmitter and launched it toward the colony's relay station. She fell asleep before the confirmation came. In her dreams, she and Raul floated through space, trailing threads of light that connected their hearts. She could feel his hand in hers, and they painted galaxies with laughter. When she woke, her console chimed. Her eyes snapped open. A brief message scrolled. Received fragments. They shine bright. A simple phrase, but it filled her chest with warmth. Mira pressed her thumb to the screen, as if she could press her palm against Raul's. "Thank you," she whispered. She imagined him reassembling her memories, hearing her voice, and feeling her love. She realized that hope was not just in sending messages. It was in creating new ways to share themselves across the stars. Tomorrow, she thought, she would draw another mural, paint another rocket, and send more fragments. She would test more ideas for compression and signal strength. And each night, she would speak into her recorder, trusting that her words would light the way home for both of them. Because that was humanity's greatest gift, the endless drive to connect, to overcome distance, and to keep hope alive. Mira woke to the soft hum of the morning alarms and sat up in bed. The sky outside was pale blue and still. Her console lay silent on the desk. She felt the familiar weight in her chest. The week had passed without a message from Raul. She closed her eyes and tried to remember his voice. She dressed and left her room. In the hallway, sunlight shone through a stained glass window. Color spread across the floor like hope painted in gold. She paused to let the warmth wash over her. Humans thrived on light and warmth, she thought. Even when the world felt cold, She knew she could find a spark. At breakfast, she joined her roommate, Jana. Jana chatted about her morning jog and the new street food vendor near the lab. Mira forced a smile and nodded. She felt a twinge of envy that Jana's day started with fresh news. For Mira, every sunrise brought the same empty console and the same longing. In the lab, the relay system ran smoothly. Signals blinked steady. On the monitors, yet none carried Rawl's laughter or the soft notes of his new song. Mira studied the schematic pinned on the wall. It showed the path of each message across space. She traced it with her finger. Humans built these paths so they could reach distant worlds. She had helped design every link. During the afternoon shift, technical reports came in about a new compression algorithm. It could double the data capacity of the crystals. Dr. Patel invited Myra to test it. She felt a surge of excitement. Here was a tool that might bring her closer to Raoul. She and Dr. Patel ran simulations, sending test crystals to the Mars relay station. The results were promising. The crystals held twice as many fragments without errors. That evening, Mira sat by the window again. She looked at the city lights, each one a human story shining in the dark. She took a deep breath and spoke into her recorder. "Today I learned a new way to reach you," she said softly. She described the lab tests and how the new crystals could carry her voice longer and farther. She spoke of her hope that this invention would bring him home in his heart. She recorded for 15 minutes, then sealed the crystal and sent it. Her fingers trembled as she hit send. She imagined the algorithm cutting through the void like a beam of light. She felt proud of humanity's cleverness. Humans never gave up on each other, no matter how far the distance. That thought warmed her. As she waited for confirmation, Mira paced the rooftop garden under a sky full of stars. She thought of Raoul, looking at the same stars from his orbital home. She felt their connection across space. She remembered how, as children, they lay on grass and pointed at constellations. She could almost hear him whisper, "We will always share these skies." Her console chimed before she lost hope. A single line appeared. "Algorithm works. Received. Your voice." Myra's eyes filled with tears. She pressed her hand to her heart, feeling it beat strong. She whispered, "Thank you," to the empty room. She knew he was out there listening. Humanity's spirit had carried her message. The next morning, she found a note on her desk from Raoul, delivered through the new crystal system. It said, "I heard you clear as day. Your hope lights my path." Her hand shook as she read his words. She felt as if he stood beside her, sharing her triumph. She taped the crystal to her console screen like a badge of honor. Mira smiled at her reflection in the glass. She saw a human who never sank under sadness, but used it to fuel her strength. She let hope guide her hands as she sketched new titles. For her next message, "Moonlit Laughter, Shared Memories, Unbroken Bond," she planned to send them in sequence so Raoul could gather them like stars in a sky. That afternoon, she hosted a small workshop for junior engineers. She showed them the new compression algorithm and explained how it could help families on Earth stay connected to distant colonies. She saw their eyes light up with the same determination she felt. They asked questions and offered ideas to improve the design further. Realized that her own hope had inspired others. As the day ended, Mira walked home under the glow of streetlights. She carried a small data crystal in her pocket. Inside, it held another story fragment, the sound of her laughter recorded under the oak tree. She knew that one day when Raoul held it, he would remember the joy they shared. She believed that memories could make them stronger than any distance. That night, she sat at her console and drafted a new plan. She would catalog her memories, one fragment at a time, until she had dozens of crystals. She would mail them in batches, a steady flow of stories that would bridge the gulf between Earth and orbit. She would never stop sending hope. Myra looked up at the stars and spoke softly. "You will hear me, Raoul. I will keep sending my heart until it finds yours." She smiled through tears, certain that humanity's greatest power was to never stop reaching out. And as long as she believed, hope would light their way across the silent sky. Mira woke to the soft glow of dawn and felt a hollow ache in her chest. The silence of her comms console pressed on her heart like a heavy weight. She wrapped her arms around herself and stared at the empty screen. 2 weeks had passed since. Rawl's last message, and each day without his voice, left her more restless. She poured a cup of tea and carried it to the rooftop garden, where morning light danced on the leaves. She whispered to the rising sun, "Today I will find a new way to reach you." At the lab, she spent the morning with Dr. Patel and the innovation team. They tested a new microcrystal prototype that could store images as well as sound. Myra watched her colleagues adjust laser etching tools and microlens arrays with precise human hands. She felt pride in their work. Humans never stopped improving, even when hope seemed thin. By afternoon, the first image-capable crystal was ready. It held a tiny photograph of the oak tree they loved, its branches stretching into a cloudless sky. That evening, Mira recorded a message and attached the photocrystal in a small, handcrafted package. She spoke softly into the recorder. "Miss your laughter under the oak. I want you to see its green leaves sway in the breeze." Then she pressed the package into the transmitter and sent it toward the colony relay. She watched the data trail on the screen, each blinking light marking. Another mile crossed. Humanity built bridges of light and sound across space, she thought. And this bridge would carry her heart. Days passed in a blur of repair shifts and quiet waiting. Each night, Myra climbed to the rooftop garden, clutching a fresh crystal bundle. She spoke into the recorder about small joys, the way morning dew glistened, the taste of her favorite tea, the pattern of raindrops on her window. She imagined Raoul listening under his own alien sky, picturing her words like stars he could gather. She wrote titles for each bundle: Morning Dew, Bittersweet Tea, Raindrop Lullaby. With each recording, her hope glowed brighter. On the 5th night, her console finally chimed. A single line scrolled. "I saw the oak leaves dance. Thank you." Mira's breath caught. She pressed her palm to the screen as if she could touch his hand. Tears blurred her vision, but her smile shone clear. She spoke aloud to the empty room. "I'm still here, and I will keep sending my stories." In that moment, she felt less alone. Humanity's spirit was alive in her persistence. The next day, she organized a small gathering in the lab's common area. Engineers and artists came together to help craft new microcrystals with color filters and sound layers. They painted tiny canvases, recorded melodies on microchips, and wrote love letters to distant friends. Mira guided them, sharing her plan to build a memory constellation of crystals that Raoul could arrange like stars. Everyone worked late into the night, driven by the same hope that burned in her heart. 2 nights later, an unexpected longer transmission arrived. Myra opened the data packet to find a series of short recordings and sketches from Raoul. He described the color of a sunset scene from the colony's dome and played a melody he had composed for her. He sketched a rough image of 2 figures beneath the oak tree, standing side by side. Mira pressed her finger to the crystal surface and let the warmth of his words flow through her. She realized they had created a new way to meet and shared memories and art. As Part 5 closed, Mira stood under the oak tree at home, holding a bundle of microcrystals. She looked up at the stars and spoke into the night air. "I see you in every light, Raoul. I feel you in every breeze." She planted the small crystals at the tree's roots, creating a glowing circle of memories. She believed that one day he would return to Earth and stand among them. Until then, their stories would shine like constellations, guiding them back to each other. And in that hope, humanity's greatest power shone brightest. Myra woke before dawn and felt a spark of excitement. Last night's breakthrough had filled her with new hope. She hurried to the lab, her boots echoing on the empty corridor. In her hand, she held a microcrystal that carried Raoul's latest sketch and melody. She placed it into the new holometer and pressed play. A soft light blossomed in the dark room, showing Raoul under the oak tree, his hand on the bark. His melody drifted through the air like a gentle wave. She smiled despite the ache in her chest. The holometer showed movement and sound together, and for a moment, Raoul felt close. She realized that humans never settled for basic messages. When they could create full experiences, she tapped the console and recorded a new message. A short video of herself painting the oak tree mural. She spoke softly. "I am here, always thinking of you," and saved the clip to the crystal. By midday, Mira and her team had prepared 10 holocrystals. Each one held a small living memory. Her laugh under the tree, raindrops on the roof, branches, swaying in the wind. They loaded the crystals into the transmitter and began the long upload. As the data streamed out, she pictured the crystals reaching Raul's hands, unfolding like tiny theaters in his living pod. Humanity built theaters on every world, she thought, so why not theaters in a crystal? After work, she walked to the rooftop garden. The stars were just appearing, tiny pinpoints of light against a velvet sky. She pressed the screen of her comms console and checked the relay status. All 10 crystals had cleared the relay without error. She exhaled, her breath visible. In the cool night air, the thought that Raoul would soon see her face in motion filled her with warmth. The next morning, Mira arrived at the lab to find a fresh delivery packet waiting. It contained 3 holocrystals from Raoul. Her hands trembled as she inserted the first one into the emitter. The light bloomed, showing him floating in low gravity. Reaching toward a window that framed Earth, he placed a model of the oak tree on a tiny table and touched its branches. He looked at the camera and whispered, "I am with you." Eyes filled with tears of joy, she pressed her palm to the cool metal of the holomitter. I felt his presence across the void. For the first time, she saw him move and heard his voice in context. Her sadness lifted, replaced by a fierce hope. She realized that human creativity could conquer loneliness and distance. Over the next days, Mira and Raoul exchanged more hollow memories. Shared dances in the lab's common room, stories read under a blanket fort. The first slice of birthday cake she had baked for him. Each view brought them closer. She walked through the lab's corridors, humming his melody. She sketched new scenes for their next exchange: a picnic under cherry blossoms, a walk by the river at sunset. One afternoon, Dr. Patel stopped by her station. He held a new upgrade, a miniature tactile projector that could add texture to the holoimages. "Imagine feeling the rough bark or the soft petals," he said. Myra's eyes lit up. She tested it on the oak tree hala. She brushed her hand against the projected bark and felt a faint vibration like the tree itself was alive. She realized that someday Raoul could feel her hand in his. That evening, she recorded a holo message. Showing her running her fingers along the real oak tree's bark, she spoke of how people on Earth treasured touch and memory. She sent the upgraded holocrystal with the tactile layer. When it launched, she watched the data pulses until the relay confirmed delivery. She whispered, "May you feel me, Raoul." Days later, a final holocrystal arrived with a simple note, "I felt your hand." Mira held the crystal close, eyes closed, picturing a smile. She knew he had felt her presence in a new way. She stood under the oak tree and lifted her hand, as if she could touch his through the night air. Her heart swelled with pride in human spirit. Mira looked up at the stars and spoke softly, "Distance cannot break us. Hope will always carry our hearts." She slipped a new blank holocrystal into her pocket. She would fill it tomorrow with a memory of this night, the tree, the stars, and the hope that bound them. And she knew that as long as humans dreamed and invented, no void could ever separate the ones they loved. Mira woke to the steady beep of her comms console and a rush of nervous energy. Today she would try something new. For months, she had sent messages, photos, and holocrystals to Raoul. Each time, her hope had grown stronger when she saw his response. Yet the distance still felt heavy in her chest. She wanted not only to share memories, but to build something they could touch together one day. She dressed quickly and slipped out of her room. In the hallway, the morning light filtered through the stained glass window. Colors danced on the floor like scattered gems. Mira paused to let the light fill her. "We are made of light," she whispered, "and hope is our brightest color." At breakfast, her roommate Jana greeted her with a cheerful smile. "Got any news from Raoul?" she asked. Mira shook her head but smiled. Not yet, she replied. But I have an idea. Jana raised an eyebrow. Show me later, she said, then hurried off. Mira felt warmth at the thought of sharing her plan. In the lab, Dr. Patel and the team gathered around the innovation table. Today they would test a new microfabricator that could layer scent with sound and light. Mira had proposed the idea. Humans remembered not only images and voices, but smells and textures. If Raoul could smell the scent of spring blossoms or freshly baked bread, he might feel truly closer to home. The team worked through the morning. Engineers calibrated scent cartridges, artists sketched tiny blossoms, and biotechnicians tracked how to reproduce the smell of rain on dusty soil. Mira watched each step, her heart racing with excitement. Humanity never settled for less. They always reached higher to connect with one another. By midday, the first scented holocrystal was ready. It carried a short video of Mira walking along a flower path near the lab. Soft petals fell around her as she stepped slowly. Behind her, the oak tree stood sentinel. As the video played, a gentle scent of jasmine and wet earth released from the crystal. The lab filled with spring air. Mira inhaled deeply and closed her eyes. She felt as if Raoul stood beside her. She recorded a message into the holometer. I want you to walk here with me. I want you to smell the blossoms and feel the breeze. She saved the recording to the crystal and sealed it in a protective shell. Her hands trembled with hope as she loaded it into the transmitter. In the afternoon, she and Dr. Patel monitored the uplink. Data packets pulsed through the relay network toward the orbiting colony. Each signal blink brought her closer to sending this new sensory experience across the void. She tapped her fingers on the console, imagining the crystal arriving in Raul's hands. After work, Mira climbed to the rooftop garden. The sky was splashed with color as the sun set. She pressed her palm to her comms console and waited. Told herself that if humans could build telescopes to peer into distant galaxies, they could certainly send a scent across the stars. Late that night, her console chimed. A single line of text glowed. I smelled your garden, felt the breeze. Mira's heart leaped. She opened a secure channel and sent a quick reply. I will send more breathe with me whenever you miss home. The next morning, a package sat on her desk. Inside were 3 small holocrystals from Raoul. Mira held them carefully and placed the first into the emitter. A gentle breeze stirred in the lab, carrying the scent of sea salt and ozone. On the screen, Raoul stood on a balcony of his habitat. Module, the vast expanse of space behind him. He waved and said, "This is the ocean breeze from my window view. I wanted you to feel it." Mira closed her eyes as the scent washed over her. She pressed a hand to her heart. He had not only heard her and seen her, he had sent her a piece of his world. Tears of joy filled her eyes. She whispered, "I feel you," as she placed her hand on the crystal. She realized that human connection was not limited by distance. It was built by creativity, empathy, and the shared will to reach one another. That afternoon, Mira gathered her team once more. They sketched plans to add gentle warmth, pulses, and soft vibrations to future crystals. She told them how Raul's breeze had warmed her spirit. They worked late, driven by the same hope that guided her. Their laughter echoed in the lab halls like the promise of reunion. As the day ended, Mira returned to the oak tree mural in the courtyard. She knelt and drew 2 figures under the tree, one on earth and one among the stars holding hands across. A bridge of light. She smiled as she added the scent labels. Jasmine, sea breeze, rain on earth, and fresh-baked bread. Each label was a promise of more memories to share. She stood and looked at the sky. Stars blinked like distant lanterns. She raised her hand as if reaching for Raul's. "We will stand together again," she said softly. "And until then, our hearts will bridge every gap with hope." Dan. In that moment, Myra knew that no matter how far the cosmos stretched, humanity's greatest power was its unbreakable bond. Distance could not silence it. Hope, ingenuity, and love carried their voices across the void, and one day, those voices would meet. Myra awoke before dawn again. Today was different. She had spent weeks sending messages, crystals, and hollow memories to Raoul. She had built new devices and shared scents, sounds, and images. Yet the distance between them still felt real. She pressed her hand to her heart and whispered, "I will find a way." She dressed quickly and left her room. In the corridor, the stained glass window cast colored light on the floor and let it fill her with calm. Humans learned from every challenge, she thought. They turned problems into inventions and built bridges across any void. She would invent one more bridge today. At breakfast, Jana sat with her. "Any word from Raoul?" she asked. Mira smiled but shook her head. "Not yet," she said. "What?" "I want to try something different." Jana leaned forward, curious. "Show me later," she replied. Ara's hope grew as she felt a friend's support. In the lab, Dr. Patel and the team waited. Mira unveiled her new idea, a live synchronization link. Instead of sending recorded memories, they would create a low-bandwidth live channel that could stream small gestures and heartbeat data in real time. It would let them share a moment together across space. The team worked through the morning. Engineers coded a lightweight data protocol. Technicians built a small wearable sensor that could record Mira's heartbeat and hand movement. Artists created an interface that would show a simple avatar of each person. Mira watched, her heart pounding with excitement. Humans never feared trying new things, she thought. They always reached beyond their limits. By midday, the prototype was ready. Myra slipped on the sensor band around her wrist. The device felt cool and light. She activated the link and sent a test signal to the Mars relay station. The screen flickered and showed a pixelated outline of her hand. She lifted her hand slowly, and the avatar followed. She felt a thrill. She spoke softly into the microphone. "Hello, Raoul. Can you see me?" She held her breath and waited. The screen remained dark. Solar winds and data delays slowed the link. She frowned, but did not give up. She adjusted the signal booster and tried again. Late that afternoon, the screen burst to life. Simple avatar waved back. Mira gasped. She pressed her hand to her chest as the sensor recorded her heartbeat and sent it through the link. On the screen, the other avatar's chest glowed in time with her pulse. She felt a sudden closeness. She whispered, "I see you." The avatar nodded. She realized this. Small connection carried more warmth than any crystal. It was real time, human to human. She felt tears in her eyes. The lab team cheered softly. Humanity had found a new way to reach out. That evening, Mira climbed to the rooftop garden. She held a small tablet showing the live link. She watched the avatar that represented Raoul move its hand in greeting. She moved her own hand in a gentle wave. Across millions of miles, they waved at each other. She spoke into the live link. "I missed you. I wanted to bring you here in this moment." The avatar turned its head and nodded slowly. Mira felt her heart swell with hope. Even in the vastness of space, they had found a way to share their presence. The next morning, she arrived at the lab to a fresh data packet Raoul had recorded. A short-lived snippet of his own, he had sent the real-time signal with a simple voice. "Mira, this means everything." Mira pressed the play button and listened. His voice shook with emotion. She felt tears roll down her cheeks. She held the tablet close and whispered, "Thank you." She walked through the lab with the live link running, showing her heartbeat and hand movements. Colleagues looked on in wonder. They saw a human story playing out on the screen, two hearts beating together across the void. That afternoon, Mira hosted a small demonstration for the Institute's director. She showed him the live link, the heartbeat sync, and the waving avatars. She ended with a simple message. "This is our strength as humans. We never let distance break our bonds. We create, invent, and connect." The director nodded, impressed. As the day ended, Mira walked home beneath the evening sky. She carried the tablet in her coat pocket. Thought of Raoul and his habitat waving back at her. She whispered to the stars, "We are together, even when apart." She felt a calm certainty. That night, she sat by her window. The live link still glowed softly. She saw the pixelated avatar of Raoul smiling. She activated the heartbeat sync. One more time, their pulses beat in unison on the screen. Mira closed her eyes and placed her hand over her heart. She felt his presence through the small device. She thought of all they had shared, memories, images, scents, and now live moments.